This agreement exchanges membership rights for China in the WTO for economic opportunities for America in China, for American businesses and American workers, without the tariffs and technology transfer requirements and production in China requirements and other requirements which have limited our ability to benefit from their market for too long.
In 2018, most people outside China had never heard of Huawei. Today, this company rivals Apple and Samsung in smartphone sales, dominates global telecommunications infrastructure, and controls cutting-edge technology that governments openly fear. Yet somehow, Huawei's rise to power happened almost entirely under the radar. This is the incredible story of how a Chinese tech giant became one of the most powerful companies in the world, despite facing unprecedented international opposition. The hidden giant nobody saw coming. When Ren Zhengfei founded Huawei in 1987, the world was barely paying attention. Working from a cramped apartment in Shenzhen with roughly $30,000 in startup capital, Ren built the company with a simple mission: create telecommunications equipment that could compete with Western technology. Most people didn't realize it, but Huawei was already working in the background, quietly building the infrastructure that would eventually power the entire digital world. For decades, Huawei operated in the shadows while companies like Cisco, Nokia, and Ericsson grabbed the headlines. But this wasn't a weakness, it was strategy. While competitors focused on marketing and brand recognition in wealthy Western markets, Huawei was investing heavily in research and development. The company spent billions on innovation while keeping a deliberately low public profile. This approach allowed Huawei to avoid intense scrutiny and competition that would have slowed its growth. By the early 2000s, Huawei had already become the world's largest telecommunications equipment manufacturer. They were building the 4G and 5G networks that connected entire nations. They were supplying technology to carriers across Europe, Africa, Asia, and beyond. But almost nobody knew the name. When your company operates behind the scenes providing infrastructure rather than consumer products, you can grow to enormous scale without anyone noticing. This invisibility changed dramatically when Huawei decided to enter the smartphone market in 2009. That's when the world finally had to pay attention. The company's phones were remarkably good, offering premium features at mid-range prices. Within a decade, Huawei became the world's second largest smartphone manufacturer, approaching Apple's market share. Suddenly everyone knew the name, rising to the top while facing the storm. Huawei's smartphone success coincided with an intense period of innovation across the company. In 2020, Huawei launched its Kirin processor, a custom-designed chip that rivaled Apple's chips in processing power. This was groundbreaking because it meant Huawei no longer depended entirely on foreign technology suppliers. The company was now building critical components from the ground up, creating an entire ecosystem of proprietary technology. The company's growth in artificial intelligence and cloud computing was equally impressive. Huawei invested in quantum computing research, 5G technology development, and advanced manufacturing. They created software services to compete with Google and Microsoft. They built a vast ecosystem of smart devices, from smartwatches to tablets to home automation systems. What started as a telecommunications equipment company had transformed into a comprehensive technology conglomerate. But this rapid rise triggered alarm bells in Western governments. The United States government, in particular, became deeply concerned about Huawei's control over global 5G networks. American officials worried that Chinese government could use these networks to spy on citizens and governments worldwide. In 2019, the United States government launched a campaign to block Huawei from supplying 5G infrastructure to allied nations. Countries like Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom eventually followed America's lead, restricting or banning Huawei's equipment. Then came the more damaging blow. In 2020, the United States imposed sweeping sanctions on Huawei, prohibiting American companies from selling essential components like advanced semiconductors and chip-making equipment to the firm. This was designed to cripple Huawei's ability to manufacture its most advanced products. The sanctions targeted the company's smartphone division, its telecommunications equipment, and its emerging technologies. For a company that had built its entire operation on access to the latest Western technology, this represented an existential threat, yet Huawei refused to back down. Instead of retreating, the company doubled down on developing domestic alternatives. Engineers worked around the clock to create Chinese made components and software to replace what they could no longer obtain from America and its allies. This forced independence ironically accelerated Huawei's transformation into a completely self-sufficient technology powerhouse. The power behind your connected world. Today, Huawei generates annual revenues exceeding $120 billion, making it one of the largest technology companies globally. More remarkably, Huawei's influence extends far beyond its revenue numbers. The company powers telecommunications networks in over 170 countries. That means a significant portion of the world's phone calls, text messages, and data transfers travel through Huawei infrastructure. If you've called someone overseas, there's a reasonable chance your connection passed through a Huawei network somewhere in the journey. Huawei's 5G technology is considered among the most advanced in the world. While Western companies struggled to compete on price and performance, Huawei offered better technology at lower costs. This made Huawei the natural choice for developing nations and emerging markets building their next-generation networks. Today, Huawei controls a massive share of the global 5G market, giving the company tremendous influence over how the future internet will function. The company's smartphone business, though challenged by sanctions, still ranks among the top 3 globally. Huawei phones are popular in China and increasingly competitive in international markets. The Huawei P series and Mate series phones are known for exceptional camera quality and innovative features. Celebrities and tech enthusiasts appreciate the design and performance, even if they're sometimes harder to find outside Asia. What makes Huawei's power particularly significant is its vertical integration. The company doesn't just make phones or network equipment, it controls the entire supply chain. Huawei designs chips, manufactures components, builds software, and creates services. This level of control over technology means Huawei can move quickly, innovate independently, and remain profitable even when facing international sanctions. No other Western technology company maintains this level of self-sufficiency. Huawei's influence extends into cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and smart cities. The company is helping governments and companies build smart city infrastructure where everything from traffic lights to hospitals connects through Huawei's networks and cloud services. They're working on autonomous vehicles, advanced robotics, and next-generation communications technology that will shape the world for decades. The remarkable aspect of Huawei's story is how thoroughly the company achieved global dominance while remaining largely unknown to average consumers. Most people can't name Huawei's current CEO or recall a single Huawei advertisement. Yet this anonymous powerhouse quietly became one of the most influential technology companies in human history. Huawei proved that you don't need brand recognition or celebrity endorsements to build world-changing technology. Sometimes, the most powerful companies are the ones operating silently in the background, reshaping the world while nobody's looking.